Hi, my name is Bart Battista. I am the Senior Director of Canyon Operations at Best Friends Animal Society. And essentially, that means I oversee all of our maintenance, construction, um, capital projects, security here at the sanctuary, and then also throughout the United States for our large capital projects.
Cool. That's awesome. Welcome to the show. And I guess now you finished Grand to Grand 2 times. So congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat about Best Friends. Like I've been involved with the race over the years quite a bit and been through Best Friends a ton. I know Jill and a few other people that work there and have worked there in the past. So it's fun to chat with you about more of the internal workings of it, but then also about running because that's what you just got done doing for the past week.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. So cool. Let's just talk about like Best Friends and like how that relationship began with Grand to Grand because it's been what, like 12 years now?
yeah, I believe it's been 12 years. I moved back to Best Friends in 2018. My dad helped start it. I worked on it as a kid, and I left, joined the Marine Corps, and so I wasn't here when the relationship began. The former, uh, the current CEO emeritus, Gregory Castle, I know was integral in establishing that initial relationship with Colin and Tess and helping bring Grand to Grand through Best Friends. He was an he was an avid runner. Boston marathon, did Boston, just loved to marathon. So this fit right up his alley. And I'm sure there's a bigger story there that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, there probably is somewhere in there. And it's been cool, like going into Best Friends over the years and just every time I drive into that canyon, like when you see all the infrastructure, which is cool and like the mission and everything, but even also just like the Kanab is so beautiful and that canyon where Best Friends is just jaw dropping every time.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, the whole area is beautiful, but we call the canyon where Best Friends is at. We call it the sanctuary, and the sanctuary is beautiful. It's just it's a wonderful place to be able to work.
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be a cool place to go into every day if you're not working from home, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, so like how like I don't know, so like the race goes through there and it's the long day and it's like it's been such an integral part of the race where like I don't know, like maybe I should just backtrack a bit. Like Best Friends is just like all over the place it seems. Like I fly quite a bit for work and it's crazy to see like, oh, like Best Friends here in this airport and that airport and all the marketing and stuff.
yeah.
But really it's like it's not just a marketing machine. There's a really cool mission behind Best Friends and it's been cool to see like the race or the race and the like the nonprofit work hand in hand so much where Best Friends is so involved with the race from like the beginning to the end. It seems like there's really not a day where you're not thinking about Best Friends or like just like seeing it like straight up in your face. And it's pretty cool to see that.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, no, we actually are. So the race takes place, runs through Best Friends on the long day, and also on um, day 6. So when we leave camp on day 6, you immediately go into a single track dirt county or dirt road that goes up through Best Friends, and when you drop into Red Canyon, which goes into Peekaboo, you're on Best Friends for. We have a section of land that the race runs through, but we don't have any infrastructure there. It's just a section of land. So there's actually two portions of the race that go through Best Friends.
Oh man, that's news to me. We always just like have left camp early in the morning to get to Peekaboo before all the runners do. So I didn't even realize that it went through some of you guys' property. That's cool.
Yeah, there's no branding or anything there, so you're just running
Yeah.
through beautiful nature.
Yeah, no, that's super cool. And like it's I don't know, just going back to what you were just saying, like every time I come to Kanab, I'm not from here, but like I'm here quite a bit, either passing through or like doing various film and photo shoots. And it's always such a mind blowing place. It just the beauty is so stunning and with Grand to Grand specifically, like the variety of terrain that runners get, which you've now seen multiple times, obviously, and
Hmm.
living here too, like you know that, but it's just so cool, like seeing the Grand Canyon and then going up on the Kaibet Plateau to a certain extent and then dropping down and then climbing up and going through Best Friends and the sand dunes at Coral Pink and the slot canyons. And like, there's so much variety where like, I think a lot of people think of desert as just like the traditional cliche, like what you see in Hollywood movies of like, oh, it's the desert. It's just like rolling sagebrush and like bones and coyotes everywhere picking up
So
bones. We're
we're in
like,
desert.
yeah, exactly. But it's so much
Yeah,
more. And here's like people see it for the first time and like they just can't stop talking about how beautiful it is because it really is like it gets green and colorful, but also red. And there's also that cliche desert, but then just canyons, cliffs, and there's so much history here.
yeah.
It's really cool.
Well, it's interesting. It's a desert, but we run through Kanab Creek on the long day, Kanab Creek, and also through Cave Lakes, which is just to the west of Best Friends. And the way the geology is around here, um, there's an upper aquifer that creates all these seeps and springs that cause all those lakes that you see at Cave Lakes, and it's just there's these beautiful little pockets all around this area that are just rife with wildlife and moisture and water.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And like I never really understood, like, and I still don't really fully understand like how all like the patterns of water move through everything because it's just so crazy just to even think about it. I don't think my brain could ever understand it. But like before we started recording, I was telling you that Jeff Garmeyer, who also ran the race, him and I flew with Dave, who was a local volunteer for Grand to Grand. We flew in his airplane all over like through Coral Pink and up some of these canyons and stuff. And we went down Cottonwood Canyon, and Dave was saying that was like a major like drainage and for the drinking water of Kanab, and it was just crazy to see like how much water and moisture was there, and like the amount of trees and vegetation. And it's really just not what people expect when they think of the desert. It was pretty
No,
mind
I mean
blowing.
it's interesting. The sand that you see when you're running on the long actually stays 3 and 4, 5 and 6. All that the red sand that we run through actually is integral to that water. So it acts as a sponge, and instead of when rain, snow melt, precipitation comes down, instead of it evaporating away or running off, it acts like a sponge, sucks it in, and then it kind of protects it from evapotranspiration, and it makes it down to the aquifer that can recharge our watersheds.
That's really interesting. Is that why there's such like a prominent amount of pine trees and stuff out there? Because that just seems like such an anomaly to me.
Well, so those are actually some remnant forests. So I don't want to mess it up, but essentially they're you know thousands of years ago you had some of those kind of larger pine forests throughout much of the Southwest, and you kind of see these island deserts, or not island deserts. You see these islands in a lot of the mountaintops in the Southwest. You see them in Southern California. You see them in Flagstaff. You see all these areas where you get these changes in kind of vegetation type, and a lot of those are remnant forests from a while ago.
Oh, that's super cool. I guess it's kind of like the Sky Islands in southern Arizona, right? Where you have
Yeah, well, exactly the same thing. Yeah,
yeah, no, that's super cool. And
that's the term I was looking for. Actually, Sky Islands. I think.
okay, yeah, like, I guess for I guess people listening that have been here around the race, like when you drive up through Jacob Lake on the way to Camp One at the Grand Canyon, like you're up at what is it, 8,000 feet or so up there, and like the temperature changes dramatically from Kanab, which is what 4,000 or so, to the 8,000,
4,500 in
the
Kanab. Yeah.
4,500. Yeah, cool. Yeah, then you drop back down to the desert and it's hot again.
Yes.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about like best friends. Though we kind of got off on a little tangent there. I could talk
Yeah.
about like the
Yeah.
geology and the stuff all day, but like so
I'm an engineer. So you don't take me down those rabbit holes.
I'm not an engineer. I just get distracted really easily with
Yeah.
stuff. Well, let's talk about though, like why Grand to Grand is such a good fit, like with best friends, because that partnership has lasted for so much over the years, and it seems like in a lot of ways there's similar missions there, where like Grand to Grand is like helping people do this amazing feat, and Best Friends is like one's like a major employer in the area, but on top of that, like you're helping animals and doing all these like amazing things with the community, right?
Yeah. So Best Friends, the mission of Best Friends is to end the killing of homeless pets in shelters throughout the United States. And so we have brick and mortar in New York City, in Bentonville, Arkansas, Houston, Salt Lake City, and Los Angeles. And we have employees nationwide, and we engage in a lot of outreach. We have established a network of partner shelters um, that we work with. We do legislative advocacy to try to advance that mission of no kill. And we do a lot of outreach. We do a lot of work with shelters. Like we have embeds, we call them embeds, where we have employees that go work in shelters at the request of a shelter, and we'll help them adjust kind of techniques, procedures they use to help increase their life-saving capabilities. An example would be there was a shelter in South Texas, and I get some of the numbers wrong, but anyways, they were killing around 26,000 pets a year, not because they wanted to. They don't have the resources, under resourced, managing huge areas, and they have this intake problem, and there's no way to adopt them out. So we go down there and we help implement programs of working with network partners, transporting animals from areas this shelter where there weren't people who wanted to adopt them up to areas where they could be adopted, and we were able to take it from like it was a 20 or 30% save rate, somewhere in that range, to 90% save rate in just a few years.
That's a pretty dramatic change.
Yeah. So no, but and so it's hard work, and it's the shelters, the network partners, the people that we work with. They're amazing, and we just kind of help show the way and help people get to no kill, and that's our mission. So it's pretty I think it's a pretty cool mission, and speaks to a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. I think everyone loves their pets and stuff, and no one really wants to see animals
Yeah.
suffer for no reason.
Yeah.
And
It's not stuff we think about. You think, oh, they're going to get adopted out. Not all the time.
yeah, sadly, and I guess you gotta do what you can, right?
Yeah, and talk about kind of the tie-in to best friends. I mean, I think there's, like personally, when I came here, the CEO emeritus asked me to kind of continue the relationship and continue making sure that we support the race. And so we see it as a great benefit to the community, bringing people from outside the community, showing them the Kanab. For best friends, it helps us connect with people to help share, our mission, and that's great for us. It can kind of, we're always trying to get people to know what we're doing, and so that's a great, combination there. But I think even just what Best Friends is trying to do is hard, and it's something that's easy to say no, to just turn the other way and say, "Oh, we did good enough." But no, we're full bore on this, and we've set some pretty hard to reach goals, because that's the only way to. I mean, it's going to be hard, and just like 171 miles, self-supported or supported, is hard to do. You've got to have guts, and you got to have gut determination to move forward. So, I mean, there's definitely an ethos of don't give up that applies to kind of the mission of Best Friends, and also to every competitor who runs in Grand to Grand.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of parallels there in doing hard things, and it's interesting in the ultra running community. You always talk about how like if you go out and you run a 100 miler or 50K, or even like really any sort of endurance feat, whatever's hard for you personally, because everyone's so different. It's like those same principles apply to other life goals, and like it kind of is like it sounds like a snowball effect, I guess, where like you do something hard and you're like, well, I can do this now, I can do this now, and then those things apply to your job, and then you just keep wanting to be doing more and more like awesome, productive things, and so it's cool to see the parallels there with Best Friends from Grand to Grand.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's also cool too, like the number of people I've met like while shooting the event that are like either working at Best Friends or like the local like the scholarship runners. Like it's really cool, and they become friends of mine over the years, and it's so fun to like have all these connections now here in town. Where like, yeah, I'm not a local, but in a lot of ways, when I come back, everyone's just like, oh, it's so good to see you. I just feel like local again, and it's partly because of Best Friends, so it's pretty fun.
yeah. It was fun. I don't think I mentioned it, but the support that Best Friends provides, in addition to running through, but we also provide the logistics support, the van support, to get the racers to the start line on Saturday and pick them up at the finish line and bring them back to town. Additionally, we bring all the chairs and tables out for that Last Supper meal. We bring that out the day before, and then during middle of day one, our guys come back out and pick it up too. So, yeah, there's just a lot of support, and the team really enjoys supporting best friends, and so it's really nice. My EA Mia is just great, and I think she and Colin have been, she's been doing a lot of leading the coordination with Colin, and it's just been great. So yeah, our team, I think our team loves doing it, and I one of the guys came in afterwards and he's like, "Hey, I think I want to run it next year." I was like, "Well, get in shape, and let's talk to Aaron and see if we can get one of those charity bibs for you."
No, that'd be great to see him run it. Like it is pretty
Yeah,
inspirational. Like when you're out there, you're just like you see you guys do all these hard things. You're like, okay, like I want to do that now. Almost like because it almost in some ways looks easy because it's like, oh well, if you're passively watching it, you're like, oh well, I could do that. And then like by the last few days, you're like, oh man, this really is a ginormous feat because you see people slowly degrade over the week, like both like in their cleanliness, but then also like in their feet and all these other
uh,
things, and it's
yeah. The
pretty interesting.
cleanliness, it's almost impossible, but we try.
You gotta do the best you can. I guess it's pretty hard when
Yeah,
you don't have a shower or anything, but that's part of the game, right?
yeah. That's part of
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah. So what like inspired you to run it? Because this is your second time, and if I remember right, in 2014, the CEO at the time ran the race. So like, was that an inspiration to you, or have you been involved in running for part of your life, or is this just kind of like a thing you do? Because
Um, well, I'd heard he'd done it, and so that it's like, well, if he can do it, I can do it. You always have that attitude. But I was in the Marine Corps for 20 years, and the idea of doing challenging things, I think, comes natural to me, and especially physically challenging things. And I it was kind of like that little mind worm that you're just like, I want to do that. Should I do it? And so in 2019, I thought, well, I'm not getting any older. I'm almost 50. So I better get her done. And so I did it. And then I was a little bit disappointed with my performance. I injured myself and I injured my knee, which affected the quality of my performance. I finished it, but not as well as I'd like to. So I told Colin and Tess, yeah, I'm going to want to do it again and do it right, or do it again, but finish healthy and strong. And they kept pestering me. And they would always say, "Is it this year? Is it this year? Come on, Bart, you can do it." And so finally I buckled to the pressure, and I did it again this year in 2024.
yeah, so how did it go for you? Because I feel like every time you do something hard, like at least every race that I do, and I doubt I'm an anomaly in this. It's like you do it, and like the second you're done, you're like, well, I could have done this better. I could have done this better. I did this wrong. I did this good. Like, did you in all those years between the first and now the second time, were you kind of analyzing what you did, and then did you apply those principles to the race this year?
Yeah, so I I kind of went in the first time as a really novice. My first ultra marathon ever was day one of Grand to Grand, and so in 2019. I've been, I mean, I basically put on, had heavyweight 30 to 40 pound packs and would go 25 miles running in the sand here, running the Mansard Trail, running out Hell Dive, all these, rough, this kind of rough sandy terrain in the area. And really it was volume and distance is what I was doing. And there wasn't really a scientific or a better approach to it. So this time I decided to hire a coach, and I hired Ron Hammett out of Sundog Running. And, we developed a training program that, worked on strength, worked on flexibility, mobility, endurance, speed. And we did some milestone races in between to help me build up to this one. So I did a 55K, a 50 miler in the 3 months prior to this race, just to build up mental confidence, and just kind of as interim goals in preparation. And so better training that's what I needed to do, and I did that. Focused on nutrition, more carbs. So basically, using a lot of my calories throughout the race were carbs. I used Rev Energy. I think it's a pretty good carb supplement, and then Element as my electrolytes. So mixed those. And I didn't eat a single bar or anything throughout any of the days running. And by the end of the day, I mean, I didn't eat it, had no, I thought it was great. And so that was something I'd learned in this build up to it, was training without using bars, just using the carbohydrate mix.
That's interesting. I remember, I think it was right before you guys go through the tunnel on, it would be like day 4. I remember you pulled out your big bag of the drink mix and you were scooping it in. You were talking about it for a
Oh yeah.
moment.
Well, I was, some people do the little serving size bags, and I started to do that, and I was going to do that, but um, it just seemed when you have a minimum pack size, a tight pack size, it was they actually take up more space because they don't flatten as much as just a big bag of powder does. So I would do a bag of powder per day, and well, I did mess up with my powder. I overestimated. I think I calculated 5 checkpoints per day instead of 4, and at 75 grams per scoop per serving, that almost came out to an extra pound of carbohydrates. And so on day 3, I think it was before we started the long day, or at the end of the second day, I went to Garth and I handed him in a pound of Rev Energy, and then after the long day, that meal at the end, I was hammering at the end of the end of the long day. It felt really good, and I turned in another pound because it was just stuff that I hadn't used. So that just drives me crazy because that meant I was carrying 2 extra pounds of weight for 3 days.
Yeah, which maybe like to somebody who has never done something like this, like, oh, it's only 2 pounds, but when you're carrying that day in and day out, like that adds up.
Well, I remember what we said in the Marine Corps. We used to say, ounces make pounds and pounds make pain.
I think it's very applicable to Grand.
Very applicable to Grand.
That's awesome. So what did you end up doing then for like your meals at night? Because I know you didn't just drink sugar water essentially for the entire week.
I used the Peak, the dehydrated meals from Peak. I think it was Peak.
Yeah,
and they were great. So I would just eat a full meal. They say 2 servings per one. It's like, no, it's 1 serving.
Yeah, I think that's a funny thing. I think you really realize how much you can eat when you're just out here moving every day and being in the sun, like how much you can eat and drink. And it's not like a serving size is applicable to a runner at Grand.
Like, if you're hiking, I don't even know how that's 2 servings. I mean, it's a nice meal, but if you're actually hiking out or camping and, doing not even a race, just hiking and, being active in the backcountry, you're going to eat the whole thing. At least I'm like 180 pounds, 185. I will eat the whole thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Those are pretty good meals. I've had them before as well. And like they're pretty quality and they're tasty. And so it all counts.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Like it's good to hear that you had like a good experience and you learned from that first year and applied those things to the second year and had a great race. Like I think having a coach is kind of underestimated in a lot of ways because we think of running as such a simple thing of like, hey, we're just going to go move. And that's what it is. But like even speaking to some experienced runners this year who had never done a stage race, like, oh man, like there's so many things that are just different stage racing versus going out for say backpacking or an ultra of 100 miles or something. It's like, so having someone to kind of guide you through that can really like make or break a race for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, it was, my coach, he wasn't a stage racer. So there was some learning on his end from my experience in 2019, but he was able to help me through those invariable, tight calves, plantar pain, that when you're 52 years old, that end up plaguing your body. Literally 2 weeks before the race, my Achilles tendon started flaring up, and I was freaking out that was going to be debilitating during the race. So he worked on he basically said, here's some physical therapy things to do, try this, do these massages, relax, do these, eccentric calf loads, really stretch them out. And Achilles, pain went away after 3 days and didn't even notice it throughout the entire race. And it was one of those things that probably I'd have just before I worked with my coach and we talked about and some of the other issues, I'd have just gingerly avoided doing anything to it and would have just lingered forever instead of taking proactive measures to try to um, fix it.
Yeah, I think that's a case in point of like the benefit of having a coach where I think a lot of us are just like, oh, well, I don't want to pay the money for the coach. But if you're already, you pay an entry fee and you dedicate, was it like maybe 20 hours or whatever it is per week training for a race, like week in and
I
week
mean,
out?
you
Yeah.
dedicate so much, especially towards the end. I mean, you're doing 15 to 20 hours just on the weekend. So then you're during the week, you're doing another hour and a half. I mean, you're doing 25 to 30 hours easily. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It becomes like a second job. And like, if you don't want to like waste all that time, it's like you have that coach to kind of guide you through. And like, cause like Achilles issues are kind of, for a lot of people, just like, well, that's the end. And the fact that you got through it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, I was ecstatic.
Yeah. Well, let's jump back a little bit, like just to the race and specifically and like the impact it's had on Kanab, because Kanab is like, it's a small town. I don't think people have never been here. Just like, okay, well, it's a small little like pioneer town in southern Utah. It's in the desert, but like it's traditionally like a kind of cowboy ranching town, right?
Um, yeah, I mean, it's, Mormon pioneers came and settled here. It's primarily, it's ranching, agriculture. There is more agriculture in the past, than there is now, just because of the growth of the town taking up some of those croplands. But yeah, a lot of cowboys. It's a huge, ranching is a huge part of the culture here.
Yeah, my high school from like I grew up in a different state, but our high school was so small we would travel different states to play sports up here sometimes. So
Yeah, no, it's So I think the impact of uh, Grand to Grand on the community. I mean, it's a small, relatively. It's a small race. It's a week and a half, on each end. Um, but a lot of people they look forward to the race coming here. They're excited by it. You get to see there's people from all over the world coming, um, and a lot of the locals are just blown away by the that people would do something so crazy. Really, is what they say. I mean, and so they're blown away by it, and I think that they like that there's just this sort of race in the community, um, and it does it puts us on the map for some people outside of kind of our historical little Hollywood reputation, because they used to, back in the 50s 60s, they used to film a lot of cowboy movies here, and that's still some films are shot here, but not as much as there used to be. And so it's kind of another way to get back on the map.
yeah, it was fun. I up until this year, honestly, I'd never been to the Perry Lodge before. I've driven by it a million times and like have done things around it, but never been inside. And it was fun to go inside and see some like the memorabilia. Maybe I don't know if that's the right word or not, but of just all the various movies and stuff over the years. And like I grew up as a kid, my dad was a big John Wayne fan, so we used to watch all the John Wayne movies. So going in there and seeing those things related to the films was like super fun.
Yeah, it's funny. So the best friends, the sanctuary used to be. They used to film movies there as well, and they also filmed the Lone Ranger. So what is it? The Lone Ranger series. Parts of it were filmed at Best Friends. There's a canyon. There's a little side canyon just to the south of where we crossed the creek on the long day, and in the back there used to be a kind of a rock on the ground. And I remember seeing a shootout with Tonto and the Lone Ranger were holed up in this box canyon, you know, fighting the bad guys, shooting back and forth, and it was right back there. And I was like, how would they end up in a box canyon?
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty fun. Like I guess it's cool to see people come in. Like maybe they come in for the running, but then they experience all these other parts of Kanab and the culture, and
Yeah,
they see something completely different than maybe what they were expecting.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So I
great.
think you guys had like what 5 runners this year from Best Friends running in
We
the
did.
race, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is, I think, the largest contingent, which was, very nice of Tess and Colin to provide us those bibs. We're very appreciative.
Yeah, it's super cool. So like, how do you see that progressing in the years? Because if it's grown a little bit, like, do you want to see more employees running, or what's the balance
Um,
for you there?
so it's for best friends. It can be employees or supporters. So what we ask of those that get the bib, we ask them to do some fundraising for best friends. So, you know, they raise, you set a goal, try to raise, $5,000 or something like that. With that bib, you get the bib, you're going to commit to running, and then raise some money for best friends. Um, I would, I think five is a great number. I hope we can continue doing that. Last year we had I think we had two bibs, maybe three bibs last year, I think, and the one of the lady who got it won the women's, um, was the fastest woman. So she was number one for women, which was great. Um, and it would be great if we could have some strong competitors that are interested in supporting best friends and uh, raising money for best friends. Especially when you get some awesome runners to say, I want to carry the best friend's flame for this race.
Yeah, definitely. And it seems like, and I honestly don't know, but it feels this way from an outside perspective that people that work at Best Friends, like, obviously they love animals, they also love being outside. So it kind of goes hand in hand where they just like love being outside and doing things. So the fact that you get to spend a week going through this town they live in is like pretty cool.
Oh yeah, I mean there's a lot of people come to Kanab. A lot of people stay in Kanab because they love the outdoors. I mean, it's amazing hiking, amazing country, and yeah, it's just. I mean, you basically get a hike. You're hiking, and like I take my dogs probably after work every day. My wife and I we'll take the dogs. We'll go out and we'll run them for 30 minutes, 45 minutes out in the middle of nowhere. A lot of it's the part of the course area, in course areas, dogs running around, and sometimes I'll throw on one of those little Go Ruck packs just to get some weight on. But you're hiking around here, like just a couple days ago after the race, just to work out the lactic acid. I took the dogs on a 30-minute run, and I was like, wait, this is the course. This is part of the course.
No, that's awesome. I think it's like one of the cool things about the area is like yeah, you're in like a little town, but it's so easy to get away and see so many amazing things. Like just touching back on things we already spoke about. It's like there's canyons, like there's the box canyons, the sand dunes. There's like we're in the high desert, but then you have like the trees. You just have so much in one little area, and
Yeah.
and it's not like it's hard to get out of town to see that. And
Yeah,
it's
you
all
can go up
incredible.
to. There's a ski resort just in Iron County, a couple hours away. See, and that's just outside King County. I mean, if the road weren't snowed in, you'd be able to get there faster. Otherwise, that's why you got to drive around.
Yeah, that makes sense. I actually drove up through there the other day, like just like right after the race. I went to go see a friend up the road, and the fall colors were just blowing up, and it was
Yeah,
incredible. It was really pretty to
yeah,
see. Yeah.
yeah.
So Bart, what's next for you then in Best Friends? Like, where do you see Best Friends going? And then what about you? Going to sign up for number three?
Well, best friends is pushing hard. Our goal right now is to achieve no kill in all shelters throughout the United States by the end of 2025, and we are pushing hard towards that. And so a lot of the resources of the organization are directed towards that mission, and we're plugging full steam ahead. And my job the as the facilities infrastructure guy is to help support um, the larger team to achieve that goal. So I'm gonna be plugging away at that, helping best friends achieve the mission. Uh, Running wise, number three, I'm gonna. I'm not saying never, but not right now. Although I am interested in running the Utah. I'm not sure I want to do a 115 miler. I'm not ready for that. but I may sign up for the Utah 50 that Colin and Tess will be uh, running in May. And I am already scouring the ultra sign up sites looking for some, easier races, but 55K or 50 milers that might be fun um, to run. So I guess I got the bug now.
I think it happens to all of us where we run something, we say we're never doing that again, but then suddenly, like you're saying, you're on ultra sign up and your wife's hiding the credit card from you because it's easy to start signing up and you get motivated.
That's right.
Yeah, I think the 115 and the 50 will be really fun because they're it's like you can go out and you can run similar to what Grand to Grand is, but if you're not interested in the stage racing aspect, or maybe you just want intro, like quote unquote intro to ultra running, you can do something a little bit shorter. And it's just as beautiful. You're here and you start in Kanab, which is gorgeous. You get to see a lot of the really cool parts. And
Yeah, and May is a really good time. It's not the heat really hasn't kicked in yet, and so that's going to be a nice time for the race, I think, and for people to come and experience Kanab.
yeah, I agree. Like that's kind of the best time to be here. Like it's beautiful in the fall, but spring or later spring is kind of like it's not too chilly, it's not too hot yet. It's just kind of perfect.
Yeah, yeah, the heat really starts kicking in July. So
Yeah, and the high desert heat's a little bit different than
yeah, well, it
other
was
places.
for the Grand, it was the whole week prior to the race. It was saying it was going to be low to mid 80s throughout the race in all the little cities that we kind of are adjacent to. And then, sure enough, middle of the race, heat wave comes in,
It got
90s.
yeah, it got toasty. Yeah, just compared to years
Yeah,
past, I was like, man, you have a bad memory, but I feel like it's never this hot. But can't complain
yeah.
though, right?
No, no, I couldn't. I mean, it was. I think it was. Yeah, I had. I didn't have. It was hot, but I did survive.
There you go. So as we kind of wrap up here, Bart, like if people want to get involved with Best Friends, like what's the best way for them to get involved? I know there's various like kind of aspects of the nonprofit, but what can they do if they want to get involved with the animal sanctuary?
Well, we have shelter. All of the brick and mortar that I talked about. You can, um, reach out to them, but also online. Go online, find out about the mission. You can, donate, or you can volunteer. We do events throughout the country. We have network partners that we coordinate with, and they could always use assistance as well. I mean, helping us or helping a network partner, it's just as good. It's all towards the same mission. Highly recommend if you get an opportunity, come out to Best Friends. The sanctuary is a place that inspires people. People come here and kind of see how we do things, and it inspires them, motivates them, and they can take that passion that we kindle in them back to their own community. And so I would reach out, check out the website, and there's plenty of opportunities that are outlined there.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks again for your time. Really appreciate it. It was fun talking, and I'm glad that you caught the ultra running bug because it's a good bug to catch.
It is. Thanks, Derek.
Yeah, thanks, Bart. We'll talk soon.